David, why write this book? I mean, why do you have to tell people to spend more money?
That is a good question. By the way, I am so excited to be here because I just have such amazing news for so many people in your listening audience. I know a lot of people watch this show. A lot of people are watching this right now, and my message is so game-changing when it comes to retirement. Because what happened was I sat down with thousands of baby boomers. I'm a financial advisor, and I'm sitting down with all of these baby boomers, and I'm noticing a trend. I asked them two questions. The first question is, how much money do you want left over when you die? And do you know what they say to me? Almost every single person?
Zero.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I want that last check to bounce. And then I ask them, well, when are you going to start spending some of this retirement savings? Do you know what they say to me? I have no idea. I guess when I have to. And I say, but so you're not going to spend any money until you have to, but you don't want to die with any money. There's something that's not adding up here.
There's a disconnect. Yeah.
There's a disconnect. And as I'm starting to look into the research, there's all kinds of government data that I'm not going to bore you with, but it's pointing to the fact that about 1/3 of baby boomers, that's 25 million people, are in danger of dying with more money than they've ever had in their lives.
So that hoped-for figure of zero is way off. Folks are dying with thousands and thousands and tens
Hundreds
and
of
hundreds
thousands.
Really?
Yes, and they're under-living. They're living like they're broke, even though they have a bunch of money in the bank. Now, this doesn't apply to everyone. If you haven't saved any money, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people that have saved at least $200,000. And think about this. My grandfather was a school teacher in a small country town outside of Pittsburgh, where I'm from. Maybe you can hear an accent. He was from a small town, never made more than $25,000 a year. He died when he was 89 years old. We're going through his stuff, his bank statements. He had $900,000 in his bank account.
It's amazing. And probably bought some Heinz stock when it was like pennies too, so he probably had a lot of that as well.
It was mostly in CDs, honestly.
Wow.
He had just obsessively saved money his entire life, and when we looked at his bank statements, he had saved money every single month up until the month that he died.
Wow. Which is great news for you, but that was not his best life living.
Oh, because my mom and my aunt who got the money, they said, Dad, like, what were you waiting for? Mom always wanted to take that trip. Mom always wanted to, redo the kitchen. There's all these things that we wanted to do. Never happened.
Michael, this is very concerning because if we don't spend the money, it goes back into inheritance tax.
Yeah, and one of the quotes that I came across in kind of prepping for this was, once you're retired, you no longer have to save for retirement. You are retired. It's time to start spending that money. And it's an interesting phenomenon. And again, it doesn't really apply to everybody, but it is an interesting phenomenon in that you've got this large chunk of money. Why not do something with it? You talked about your family. I'm seeing the same thing in my family. My father, he's got several pensions lined up, and he says, when I pass, when I go, all this money is going to come to you. And me and my sisters and his sisters are all saying the same thing.
You take a cruise, live it up,
You
travel.
wanted to go to Spain for 20 years. Go.
Do it.
Go. You've got the money, you've got the savings, go do it.
And that's essentially the advice that you're giving folks now as well, right?
Well, okay, so I'm going to be very clear. I'm going to pull back the curtain and tell your audience what to do. Are you ready?
All right, we got 30 seconds. Do it quick.
You want to spend the money that the money is making. So if you have a 3% CD and you're getting 3%, spend that. See, we're being responsible. We're not spending the money. We're just spending the money that the money is making.
Makes sense. That's a good tip. And I'm sure we'll have more good tips and more keen insight as we are just getting warmed up in our conversation. Very important information for us boomers as we contemplate when it is we're going to be able to kick back and relax. I can't. Well, maybe I will a little bit during this break, but we'll be right back.
ABC 7, serving Palmetto and the entire Suncoast. You're watching ABC 7 News at 7:30.
And welcome back in. Tonight we're looking at baby boomers leaving lots of money on the table, as David Kennon, author of The Retirement Revolution, Spend More, Worry Less, tells us that doesn't have to be. And since we're talking economics on a Thursday, we've got USF Sarasota-Manatee economics professor Michael Snipes along a little bit early to talk this through. David, you mentioned this is a weird demographic quirk. This generation right now, baby boomers, have got a situation looming that's potentially great for them, but it's very odd for any other demographic that we've seen through the continuum of this United States.
Well, if you think about it, for everyone watching this right now, and if their parents were alive during the Great Depression, if they're raised by Depression-era parents, you have been infected with this Depression-era mentality. How could you not be? If your whole life as a kid, your parents are saying you never know what might happen, everything could fall apart, if you spend any of this money, everything could fall apart. So baby boomers are stuck with this Depression-era mentality, and it comes back to the revolution. The retirement revolution is all about not living scared, but living empowered and confident. And again, I want to be very clear. To join the retirement revolution, there's a couple rules. You have to have at least $200,000 in retirement savings, and once you retire, you're going to take the money that the money is making. If your portfolio of stocks and bonds is returning 5% on average, spend that money.
Take the 5%.
If the CD's returning 3%, spend the money. And sometimes people will say to me, Dave, if you send me that 5% or whatever it is, I don't really need it. Can I just wait to take the money out when I need it? And I say, no. No, the whole point of the retirement revolution is that you get to spend the money that the money is making, and if there's extra money left over at the end of the month, guess what you get to do? You get to enjoy it.
Live it up.
Live it up.
And that makes perfect economic sense, doesn't it, Michael?
Sure, yeah, and if we've got money that's just kind of locked away in the financial system, that's not really doing anything for the economy.
Especially with returns on savings anymore. I
Right.
mean, a savings account or a passbook, they don't even have passbooks anymore. But I mean, it's like they're down in single digits. It's low.
Yeah, and when you look at the American economy, something like 70% of gross domestic product is consumer spending. And so if we've got all of this money that's really just kind of locked away in the financial sector, not really doing anything, maybe earning a little bit of interest, but not really doing what it could be in trying to kind of grow the economy through consumer spending.
Get it back into jobs and building
Exactly.
more infrastructure and so forth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That could be a pretty significant injection of income into the economy. Could help to maybe create jobs, like you said.
If someone decides to go ahead and join this revolution, does it flip their life? Like they're flipped thinking?
It does. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen people very, very scared, not wanting to spend any money, living their lives kind of going, I hope I'm going to be okay. I hope if I spend this $2,000 on a trip, I'm not going to bankrupt myself 20 years later. And I say, stop the madness. Put a plan together, start, invest the money, and then take the earnings and enjoy that part of it.
Now, as far as the investment, you're kind of talking about a 5% return. Are we looking at annuities? Are we looking at stocks? Certainly not these days bonds, but is it a variety of things just based on what their portfolio is or has been?
My generic advice is you want to invest in a diversified portfolio of stocks and bonds with at least half of the money in stocks. If you look historically speaking, that's really never not returned 5% over time. So usually I recommend 5% of your portfolio each year. And like I said, enjoy the money.
Is this with inflation? If inflation starts going up, does this change the parameters of this program at all?
Well, inflation, I have great news about inflation. Social Security increases with inflation.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the law.
It's indexed, but how long is that going to last?
It is what it is. That's where we are now. And also spending. If you think about it, people in their early 60s versus their early 80s, statistically, they spend about 40% less in their 80s than they do in their 60s. So what ends up happening is even though things get more expensive, at the same time you're spending less, and they kind of offset each other. So that's great news in the sense that you don't need to worry about inflation so much, which might allow you to loosen the grip a little bit now and enjoy the money.
And have a little bit more fun now without worrying about those down the road issues, because if you do it smartly, the money's still going to be there. The principal's not going to get eaten into. That's the plan here, right?
That's the whole point. That's exactly what I'm trying to. I mean, the retirement revolution is so exciting because, just like I said, I get to see it firsthand what happens, and it's not only fun, but it also takes away that fear that so many people struggle with.
Now, I know this book is pre-released right now. You haven't even had an official launch for it.
Yeah.
But that's coming up. It's coming up in October, I guess, right?
October 15th, we're having the official book launch, and we're doing some other media tours and all that fun stuff. And really, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to help people because I'm tired of seeing people living scared and dying rich. I mean, think about that for a second. Living scared and dying rich because all of these people end up with all this money.
So, I know my mom lives in Maryland, and she's probably watching right now. Hi, Mom. I remember going to the store with her to get some groceries, and she said, well, these pies are on sale. And we went over to the freezer section, and, they're not on sale anymore. I don't think we need it. And literally, we were talking about $1.25. But that's the mindset that you get into, and that's the mindset that I still have, that you don't want to spend money you don't have to. We've clipped coupons. But you're saying you don't have to do that anymore.
Well, you've built up those habits over 40 years. So it's hard to break that habit. But when I talk to people in their 80s and 90s and tell them, my idea, do you know what they say to me?
I wish you'd have told me that 20 years ago.
Where were you 20 years ago? I've been letting this money defer and grow, and I have more money than I've ever had before. But now, quite frankly, I'm kind of too old. The stuff that I wanted to do, I can't do anymore or want to do anymore. So you have a window. Once you retire, you need to start saving the money you specifically saved for retirement. It is a retirement account.
Right.
And if you only spend the earnings, you don't have to worry about running out of money.
At what point would you or should you be concerned when you're cutting into that principle that you've saved over so many years?
Again, between now and the end of our lives, if a diversified portfolio does not return 5%, and this is just data, this is not my opinion, it's never not returned at least 5% on average. I understand there's craziness day to day, but big picture, you don't have to invest in stocks and bonds, but that's generally what I recommend.
There is a fly in the ointment here. Health costs are increasing.
No, that's true.
The older we get, the more we tend to need higher cost health care.
Yes.
Does that play into this when you say have your fun, do what you can now, but still kind of you're holding on in case there is that potential for any kind of catastrophic spending that would come up because of a health problem?
That's an excellent point. Now, again, you still have the principal, so you still have the original money, but another very common misconception that people have is when it comes to Medicare. People feel like, what if I have a heart attack and I go to the hospital and I get a $300,000 bill from the hospital and I'm 73 years old and I'm going to go bankrupt? Well, Medicare doesn't work that way. If you're on Medicare and you have a supplement, the maximum out-of-pocket in any given year is $6,700. So that $300,000 bill is a $6,700 bill. And there are viewers right now who are living their lives saying to themselves, well, I can't take this trip and I can't go see my grandkid and I can't do this because what if I have a big health scare? But they don't understand the system. And I'm getting chills thinking about this. I'm crazy.
We do keep it cold in the studio.
No, I love my job. I love what I do because I get to give people all this good news and I get to inform them. They have these misconceptions that almost every baby boomer has. And once I kind of clear up those misconceptions, I can see it's like, okay, like I know I have a plan.
Off the shoulder. But all of this is sound advice, isn't it, Michael?
For the people who have enough saved and have enough in retirement, yes, absolutely. For those who have, you say there's the $200,000 threshold. I think of my mom, and my mom was a public school teacher for many, many years. And really, she relied upon her retirement, her teacher's retirement payments, and that was her retirement plan. And that's what a lot of people have. But when she kind of started to realize that maybe I should be doing more, there's a saying, the best time to plan was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. And then she kind of came to that realization and started buying stocks, started investing. And it's better to do it late than not do it at all. Mm-hmm. And I think that everything that we've talked about here so far, I completely agree with. But at the same time, if you're not lucky enough to be in that position, that's not really a reason to, not try and plan ahead, to develop a budget, to see exactly where your expenses are going to be.
And see where you can carve out those nickels and dimes and dollars that are going to add up.
Exactly. So even if you don't necessarily fall into the category that we're talking about specifically here, it's never too late, really, to start saving, to start getting involved. Because my mother was just about to retire before she started to do any kind of investment or things like that.
All right. David, one final word. Folks want to get in touch with you and get a pre-copy of this book or get some more information. How can they do it?
Very simple. Go to stoplivingscared.com. That's stoplivingscared.com. You can get the book. I write weekly articles on this subject, so if you want to sign up for that, you can. stoplivingscared.com.
All right. Great information. Really good conversation. Thank you very much for being here.